Right now, somewhere in your life, God is trying to speak to you, and you are the one keeping the line dead. Not because you're unworthy, not because you're too far gone, but because of one thing you do every single day without even noticing it. And until you stop, the voice inside you will stay silent. Build the mystery and intimacy. This is where you establish Murphy's core premise, that the infinite intelligence within is always speaking, and the failure to hear it is a human failure, not a divine one. Remind them God does not shout. God does not compete for attention. The infinite mind speaks in impressions, quiet nudges, sudden knowing, not thunder. Most people spend their whole lives asking, why don't I feel guided? Without realizing they've built a wall brick by brick. Promise them, by the end of this, they will know exactly what that wall is made of and how to take it down tonight. Right now, in this very moment, your mind is running like a machine that never shuts off, and you call it normal. You call it just being human. But let me tell you what it actually is. It is the single greatest obstacle standing between you and the voice of God. Think about your day. From the second you open your eyes, what happens? A thought about what you forgot to do yesterday, a worry about a bill, a memory of something someone said to you 3 years ago that still stings, an argument you're having in your head with someone who isn't even in the room. This is not thinking, this is noise, endless, restless, repetitive noise, and you have lived with it so long you no longer notice it's there. It has become the water you swim in. Now understand something. The infinite intelligence within you, the same power that formed galaxies, that beats your heart while you sleep, that grows a child in the womb without instruction. This power does not scream over static. It does not compete with your anxious inner monologue for airtime. It does not raise its voice to be heard above the chaos of your replaying arguments and rehearsed fears. It simply waits, silently, patiently, for a moment of stillness that so many of you never give it. You ask, why don't I feel guided? Why don't I get the answer? Why does God feel so far away from me? And I tell you, God has not moved. God has not moved. God has not gone silent. You have built a wall of noise so thick, so constant, that even a message sent directly into your soul cannot penetrate it. The messages are being sent. They are being sent right now. But no one is home to receive them, because the mind is out running in 10 directions at once. This is why the ancient teachers, the mystics, the prophets, they all said the same thing in different words. Be still and know. Not be busy and know. Not be anxious and know. Be still, because stillness is not the absence of something. Stillness is the doorway. It is the frequency on which the infinite speaks. And you cannot tune into a frequency while your dial is spinning wildly between 100 stations of fear, resentment, and worry. I want you to notice something about the moments when you have felt closest to guidance in your life. Was it while you were scrolling your phone? Was it in the middle of an argument? Was it while your mind was racing through your to-do list? Or was it in the shower in those few unguarded seconds? Was it right before sleep in that thin space between waking and dreaming? Was it on a quiet walk when for once your mind simply stopped? That is not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence. That is the entire secret hiding in plain sight. The noise you call normal is not neutral. It is not harmless background hum you can safely ignore. It is actively, in this very moment, blocking a communication that has been trying to reach you, perhaps for years. Now let me show you the second wall, and this one is far more subtle, because it hides inside something that looks holy. It hides inside your prayers themselves. Most people go to God the way a beggar approaches a stranger on the street. Hand out, head down, voice trembling with need. Please, God, I need this job. Please, God, save my marriage. Please, God, save my marriage. Please, God, I can't lose this house. And they believe this is faith. They believe the intensity of their desperation proves the sincerity of their prayer. But I tell you, desperation is not faith. Desperation is not faith. Desperation is the very opposite of faith. It is a confession spoken in the language of lack, and lack is exactly what gets mirrored back to you. Understand how the subconscious mind actually works. It does not respond to the words you speak. It responds to the feeling behind those words. You can say, I know abundance is coming 1,000 times, but if underneath those words there is a clenched fist of fear, a nod of I don't have enough, a trembling belief that you are not worthy of receiving, the subconscious does not hear your words. It hears your emotion, and it goes to work reproducing that emotion in your outer life, faithfully, exactly, without judgment. It cannot tell the difference between a prayer of faith and a prayer of fear, because both are simply instructions given with feeling, and feeling is the true language of the deep mind. This is why so many people pray for years and see no change. They are not praying from fulfillment, they are praying from the ache of not having. They kneel down every night rehearsing the very lack they are trying to escape, strengthening it, feeding it, giving it more life with every repetition. They ask God to fill a cup. They keep insisting, with every word, is empty. Now hear the shift Dr. Murphy spent his whole life teaching. True prayer is not asking. True prayer is claiming. It is standing, even before the evidence appears, in the felt reality of the answer already being yours. Not gritting your teeth and pretending, not lying to yourself, but quietly, deeply assuming the state of the wish fulfilled, feeling right now the relief of the debt already paid, the joy of the relationship already healed, the peace of the answer already known. This is not fantasy. This is how an heir speaks, not a beggar. An heir does not beg for what is already theirs by birthright. An heir simply lives from that knowing. You were never created to crawl before your own source. You were never meant to approach the infinite intelligence within you as something separate, distant, reluctant to help. That same power that knows how to circulate your blood without your instruction, that already knows the answer to every question you carry, that power does not need to be convinced. It needs only to be recognized and felt and trusted. So examine, honestly, the last prayer you spoke. Was it soaked in lack? Was it trembling with fear, dressed up as devotion? Or did it carry the quiet, unshakable feeling of a done deal? The calm of someone who has already received, simply waiting for the outer world to catch up to the inner truth they have already claimed. Now I want to speak to you about the third wall. And this one is the most heartbreaking of all, because it means the guidance already came. It already arrived. And you let it slip past you like a stranger in a crowded street. Here is something you must understand about how the infinite intelligence communicates. It does not announce itself with trumpets. It does not send a message twice, 3 times, 10 times, begging for your attention like a desperate friend. It speaks once, softly, gently, almost like a whisper you could easily mistake for your own imagination. And then it waits. That first impression, that first quiet nudge, that sudden flash of knowing that rises up from somewhere deeper than your thinking mind, that is the moment. That is the sacred instant so many of you have learned, without even realizing it, to throw away. How many times has this happened to you? You felt a pull to call someone, and you dismissed it as random. You felt a check, a hesitation, right before making a decision, and you talked yourself out of it because it was inconvenient. You had a flash of clarity about the path you were meant to take, and instead of following it, you buried it under logic, under fear, under the opinions of people who had no business shaping your destiny. You called it coincidence. You called it overthinking. You called it anything except what it actually was, guidance, arriving exactly on time in the only language it knows how to speak. And here is what no one tells you. The channel does not stay open forever if you keep ignoring what comes through it. Every time you dismiss that first whisper, you are not simply missing one opportunity. You are training your own mind. You are teaching yourself, message after message, dismissal after dismissal, that these impressions do not matter, that they are not to be trusted, that they can be safely ignored. And the deep mind listens to this training. It listens to everything you demonstrate through your actions, far more than anything you claim to believe. So slowly, quietly, without announcement, the whispers begin to grow fainter, not because God stopped speaking, but because you stopped listening long enough for it to matter. This is why so many people say, I used to have such strong intuition as a child, and now I feel nothing. Nothing was taken from them. They simply spent years proving to their own subconscious that the guidance offered was not welcome, not trusted, not acted upon. And the deep mind, ever obedient, ever faithful to your true instructions, gave them exactly what they asked for through their actions, silence. But understand this too. The whisper is patient in a different way. It does not need you to have perfect discipline. It needs only that you begin again. The first time you honor that quiet nudge, however small, however unreasonable it may seem to the logical mind, you are sending a new instruction. You are telling the deep intelligence within you, I am listening now, I am ready now. And that relationship, once neglected, can be rebuilt the same way any trust is rebuilt, one honored whisper at a time. So think back over the last few days. Was there a thought, an impression, a pull towards something that you brushed aside because it didn't make sense in the moment? That was not nothing. That was never nothing. Now we come to the fourth wall, and I must warn you, this one is the hardest to see because it wears the mask of guidance itself. This is the deception of asking God a question while your heart has already decided the answer you wanted to hear. Watch how this happens in your own life. You come to a crossroads. You say, God, show me the way. God, give me a sign. But underneath that prayer, quietly, secretly, you have already chosen. You already know what you want to do, and so you go searching not for truth, but for confirmation. You wait for a sign that agrees with you, and you dismiss every sign that doesn't. You call the flattering voice intuition, and you call the uncomfortable voice just fear. But often it is the reverse. Often the ego is the one whispering sweetly, telling you exactly what you long to hear, while true guidance sits quietly in the background, saying the one thing you don't want to face. This is the great trick the mind plays on itself. The ego is a master of disguise. It has studied you your whole life. It knows your language, your beliefs, even your spiritual vocabulary. And it will use every bit of that knowledge to dress up its own agenda as the voice of the divine. It will quote the very teachings you trust. It will use the very feelings you have learned to associate with truth. And so a person can walk through life for years, utterly convinced they are following God's guidance, when in truth they are only following the loudest, most comfortable voice in their own head, the one that never once asks them to change, to sacrifice, to grow. Here's how you begin to tell the difference. True guidance rarely arrives wrapped in comfort. It does not usually confirm what your fear or your pride already wanted. More often, it asks something of you. It asks you to forgive the one person you swore you never would. It asks you to leave the security you cling to. It asks you to speak the truth you have been swallowing for years because it was easier to stay silent. True guidance has a certain unmistakable weight to it, not loud, not forceful, but undeniable, even when it is inconvenient, even when it costs you something. The counterfeit voice, on the other hand, always seems to agree with you. It always seems to justify what you already wanted. It flatters your position. It excuses your avoidance. It tells you exactly what your wounded, frightened self longs to hear, and it calls this comfort peace, when it is really only the relief of being told you don't have to change. So when you kneel and ask for direction, you must first be willing to hear an answer you do not like. You must be willing to receive guidance that inconveniences you, that humbles you, that asks more of you than you plan to give. If you are only listening for the voice that agrees with you, you were never really asking. You were only performing the asking, while your ego held the pen and wrote the answer in advance. This is the final wall, and perhaps the most personal one, because it cannot be torn down by anyone but you. It requires an honesty most people spend their whole lives avoiding, the willingness to ask and truly mean it. Show me the truth, even if it is not what I want.